What's your story about money and how can you change it? In this video on Reinventing You. How's it going? I'm Amelia Sims. This is Reinventing You, the channel where you can be inspired to live a life of joy, fulfillment, and purpose by reinventing yourself. I have been a pastor for 20 years where I helped people reinvent themselves by inspiration and teaching and guidance. And now I want to help you outside of the church to do the same. This may be an area, it could be your career, it could be your relationships, it could be you physically, whether weight or strength or some other way that you want to renew your life, and I want to inspire you. I hope that you've already subscribed, and if you could, please leave me a thumbs up if this video is helpful for you. In my last video, which you'll see above, I talked about how we are influenced by a Christian understanding of how money is evil or money is bad. And today's video, I want to talk about some of the myths we tell ourselves. In other words, the stories that we have created in our own lives and how we can change those stories. So what is your story about money? If I could say right now, sit down with you and say, what are your beliefs about money? What would you say? Money's bad. I don't have enough. I'm not worthy of having any money. I have too much money. I have a problem with spending money. I spend money I don't have, or, whatever it is your story is. Think about, where do these stories come from? I really had to sit down because this is sort of what got me all started about talking about money and thinking about money and doing this video series about money, is that I have particular background and it comes from my parents. My mother, her father once loaned a family member a great deal of money right before 1929, and of course he lost it. And after that, he never lent anybody any money. He never lent anybody money. But he had several businesses. He had a garage. He worked on cars. He worked in construction. He was a handyman. He did all kinds of things. But my mother told the story of always being poor. They never had enough. There were 7 kids in the family. They lived in this little tiny place. My mother always had the story of growing up poor and not having a lot. That, really influenced her, and it influenced me. Well, the interesting thing is, when my grandfather died, my grandmother did a great deal of traveling. She'd never been able to do it before. She went all over the world. She did all kinds of things. And then when she died, all 7 children got an amazing amount of money. So obviously my grandfather was not really poor. He lived like he was poor, but he was obviously saving the money. I have a very similar story that happened to my father's parents. My grandfather worked for a grocery company, a grocery store. He was a produce manager. He did very well, but he ended up losing his job when the store was bought out by another company. However, because he had saved a lot of money, even though my father lived well, he was an only child, so he had all kinds of privileges. They were never hurting. He never had a message of money was bad, but my grandfather obviously planned ahead. So bring these two people together. These are my parents. My mother was, she said, a child of the Depression, and she would always save things and reuse things and recycle, and she did not like to spend a lot of money, but she would love to go onto sales and to thrift stores and to places that, like outlet mall kind of stores, and was always buying. So she was always buying things, but they're always cheap things. Of course, once you filled up a couple of closets and you think, well, how much of your money are you really spending? My father was just the opposite. He wouldn't spend any money until it was some huge something that he could buy. And then he would spend a lot of money. I think for my father, it's always been the more it costs, the better it must be. I grew up in a family where I did not have an allowance. I was not allowed to get a job while in high school. So I would have to go to my father and ask for money. And he was the bank and he had the control over it. Now, if I asked for money, he would probably give me a little bit more than I needed. I have this sort of issue now because of this. My story of money is that I'm never going to have money. and I'm not worth getting money. I am not worthy of the money. And if I do get money, it's hard for me to get money. And then I have a tendency not to spend on little frivolous things, but all of a sudden have a big expenditure and spend a lot of money. Now, whether I spend too much money or I always spend things if they're, I think I'm more balanced than my dad, because I think I'm more like my mother. I think of terms of what's the product, what's it really worth, do I want to spend that much, and how can I save any more? So I'm a little bit sort of thrifty in that way. But, you know, you can tell where my story comes from, and you probably have a similar story. So when you have all these stories about money and they're not good stories, then no wonder you're always worried about money. You're always concerned about money. I would love for you to check out, I would like to call it the dueling videos. Above, you'll see this video by Gillian Perkins, and she kind of tells some of the story about how she had these understandings of money, where they came from. And there's another video that goes with it, and she talks about it, and it's by Tara Wagner, and they did this collaboration. First, check out Gillian Perkins' video, and then above Tara Wagner's video, where she talks about overcoming some negative views about money. So Gillian Perkins has the negative views, Tara Wagner has the overcoming, and I want to address some things. Some of them are very similar to what Tara says, but I have some other ways too that you can change your story. So you have your background, it probably came from your parents or people who raised you. You have your own experience with money, and then you've created your own story and you live with it now. So how can you change your story about money? The first way you can change your story about money is to educate yourself. This video, the videos I'm showing you, other videos on YouTube, books, talk to people, financial advisors, educate yourself about money. If you are on YouTube, you probably are a person who wants to learn about new things. This is a perfect opportunity to learn new things about money. And it's not all just changing your mind about money. How can you best use your money? How can you earn more money? How can you save more money? How can you invest more? There's so many things that you can educate yourself about money. So start there. The second thing that you can do to change your money story or your money mindset is simply to change what you say about money. And this is the one thing that I'm having to do. Part of what I tell myself is that I can't earn more money. I'm not worthy of earning more money. So I have to change that around to say, I am capable of earning money. I am capable of earning more money. I am worthy of having money. I am able to take my money and use it wisely. Now, one of the things we have to be careful about money is becoming emotionally attached to our stories we tell ourselves about money. And I have a video up here again by Tara Wagner talking about how we become emotionally attached. Well, I will say about it is that sometimes we become emotionally attached to these stories that we tell ourselves, whether it's about money or another issue, is that, oh, poor me, I'm never going to have any money. And the reason is I'm not worthy of it. And my mother was poor and my father was very controlling when it came to money. And so we sort of get a boost or addicted to this story because it just makes us sound terrible. And, you know, oh, poor me. And won't everybody listen to this poor story that I have about myself? People don't really want to hear that, first of all, but you become emotionally attached to it. Oh, this is my story. I own it. It's a part of me. And sometimes you just have to let that go. The fourth thing to change your money mindset, change your stories, is to simply tell it to shut up. I don't know about you, but I have a voice in my head. I'm always talking to myself and I'm always telling myself things. And I said earlier where you have to kind of verbally change your story and say it out loud. Well, I have this mental thing in my head and it will say, well, you're not worthy of money. And I have to say, shut up, shut it down. You just have to say, no, turn it off. I'm not going to listen to this. This is fake story. I'm not going to deal with it. Be quiet. It's not true. Sometimes you just have to shut it down. And the last thing that you have to really tell yourself and to really do is to embrace the good about money. I have a video above by Marie Forleo who talks a little bit about embracing what's good about money. I don't think we tell ourselves this very often of the good we can do about money, but if you don't have money, if you're strapped for cash, then you're not going to be able to give to good causes. Think of all the good things that you could do with your money. And I don't mean go out and buy a Lamborghini, but I mean helping other people. Think of all the things good that you could do with your money. That will help you change your money story and your money mindset. I hope that you have delved into some of your own story about that you tell yourself about money and how you can change your story about money. And maybe you're thinking, well, that's not really my hang up. I have this other story about my weight or about my relationships. Well, these principles can also be used for that as well, to change your story that you tell yourself. I'm Amelia Sims, and I'm glad that you have been watching this video. If you have appreciated this video, please give me a thumbs up, and as always, if you have not subscribed, do that now. This is Reinventing You, the channel where you can be inspired to take your own reinventioning journey so that you can live an authentic life of joy, fulfillment, and purpose. Have a great one.